What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay, here to talk some Packers. We're going to talk a little Super Bowl, get that out of the way, and then obviously it's full-blown off-season mode here on PTA. We're going to kind of recap, review the salary cap situation to set the stage for free agency, and a little more specifically in terms of the timeline here in the offseason. We're going to talk about those restructure possibilities, things like that, and how much money you could actually free up. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning. If you would, hit that like button for us on your way in. Tim, good to have you back, bud. You having a good morning here?
Good to be back, man. Yeah, good morning so far. I got the coffee going, so, it's always a good start.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm on my second cup. I usually try to end it at 1 now, but man, we woke up and the head felt like a beach ball. We got up in the 70s. Now we're back down in the 20s. It's the body
getting that Wisconsin weather. There you go,
man. It's and you never know. Is it the allergies, right? Is it your body reacting to the change in the weather, or did some knucklehead give you a virus, right? So you're
or is it all of the above and you're really in trouble?
There you go. There you go. I know this. I was in an arena with I don't know how many tens of thousands of people watching that basketball game the other day, so I have a hard time believing it's just a coincidence that I was jamming in there like this, watching the game, and all of a sudden we got some symptoms. So I apologize for the sniffling and the voice sounding even weaker than it normally does. Let's go to the chat real quick. First of all, we got a poll question up. I want to get everybody's take on the halftime show. And listen, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. We're going to dive into salary cap and stuff. You know what we do on this show. We try to keep the casual talk out of it. But I just want to see if I'm losing my damn mind or not. The halftime show for me, and I put a tweet out. I'm like, man, I don't know. I couldn't understand. I could barely hear Kendrick Lamar lyrics, right? And I don't know, the whole choreography and everything was just like, I found myself going, yeah, usually the halftime show in Super Bowl is like, hey, you got to watch this, right? It's going to be historic. You think of Michael Jackson, right? You think of Prince and, doing Purple Rain in the rain. Oh my God, absolutely crushing. One of my favorite was Bruno Mars. People will probably roast me in the chat. I don't care. I think Bruno is one of the most talented people on the face of the planet. This was just one I'm like, this is the best we had, right? Unbelievable. So, I put a couple tweets up, actually one tweet up, like, yeah, this is kind of cheeks, And next thing I know, I'm getting DM'd that I'm a racist, Tim. So I was informed last night I'm a racist for not liking the halftime show. It's kind of cool, right? You find that out. It's kind of shocking when you find that out just on a random Sunday. You know what I mean?
That's kind of crazy, right? An opinion makes you racist. I don't get it. I don't know how that works.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I'm like, why are you following me if I'm a racist? Like, what? I'm confused here. That's like the whole Nazi talk. People throw that term around a lot, and it's like, but you're still following along. This is weird. That's really strange. You're interviewing. So Turtle says Clayton for the 2026 halftime show. But I'll tell you what, man, I try not to be too critical of musicians because I am not coordinated at all when it comes to playing instruments. And boy, you do not want to hear this voice trying to sing. I promise you that, man. So John Kuhn evidently agreed. I was cracking up at this tweet he put out. Halftime show showed somebody dozing off. But yeah, put the poll question up to see what everybody's thinking there in that regard, because Kendrick Lamar evidently has a huge following, right? I said, did you enjoy the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar? 83% said no, 17% said yes. So listen, if you're a yes, man, hey, that's awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. I'm just simply saying, Tim, I don't care who the artist is. If you can't hear what they're saying, if you're not familiar with their song, and when you hear oh, yeah, that's right, yeah, and you can sing along, cool. Like somebody said online last night, the whole point is for people to be able to kind of sing along with it, right, at the halftime show. So it's kind of weird how they did the setup. But I did see a couple camera shots in the crowd, and yeah, for every one person standing, there was about 20 sitting down. Like, what the hell's going on right now? I don't even know what this is. So anyway, you got anything to say on the halftime show? I know you're an old hip hop guy like me growing up in the 90s. We were absolutely just freaking spoiled with the Pacs and the Biggies and everyone in between. But what'd you think of the halftime show, man?
I got to be careful here. It was a show that happened at halftime and featured a West Coast American rapper and had a guest appearance from Sam Jackson. Mm-hmm. And it was entertainment. Are those all facts? Yeah, those
Those
are
are facts. Those are facts, sir. Yes, sir.
okay. I'm going to leave my opinion out of it. I don't want to get called a racist, so
Yeah.
I'll leave that one alone.
Tim, these waters are lonely out here, man. You can come join me. You can come be a racist too. That's absolutely wild, man. Like
Oh, man.
2 hours before the game, I'm talking about, man, nobody will ever beat Michael Jackson or Prince's halftime show. And next thing you know, I'm a racist because I didn't like it. But anyway, let's move it along. GBP Daily, our good buddy Rob Westerman over there put this tweet out, and this is what it's all about, Tim. And still, the Green Bay Packers are the only team in pro football history to win back-to-back-to-back championships, and they've done it twice. Obviously, Curly Lambeau did it, and then Vince Lombardi came in and did it, winning the first 2 Super Bowls and obviously the NFL championship the year before. I know there's a portion of people out there that say it don't count because they're not all 3 Super Bowls. Again, nobody's saying they're the only team in history to win back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls. They're saying back-to-back-to-back championships. So I just think it's awesome that nobody's been able to do that, man. Obviously,
in the words of Kendrick Lamar, they not like us.
Hey, there we go. Now we're incorporating it. So pretty cool. The Packers are still undefeated in that regard, man. No doubt. And let's see here. This was interesting, man. The refs have been a big conversation all year long. J.J. Watt, who I've got a mad amount of respect for, he put a tweet out and said that ref narrative died pretty quick. And, I'd quote tweeted it, but he does understand that this proves the refs catered to the Chiefs all year, right? Like, again, you didn't see the Chiefs getting the calls last night, did you? Now,
Nope.
why? Why is that? It looks pretty suspicious that all of a sudden the Chiefs don't get the calls after everybody raised immortal hell and said they were protesting the Super Bowl, which, by the way, from what I understand, the Super Bowl, the average price of the ticket, Tim, dropped significantly this year because they were having a hard time getting rid of all of them. So it is kind of proven people did protest it to a certain extent, right?
Oh, so it was only like $30,000 a ticket
Exactly.
in this year? Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, the whole point that I seen last night was like, these are the Chiefs when they're not catching those breaks. Like, for the first time all year, you've seen Patrick Mahomes get smacked in the face and no flag, right? And don't get me wrong, on that particular play, and I know there's a little bit of debate of, well, the ball was already out. That doesn't matter from the best of my knowledge with the rule book. Should have been a flag. But, hey, welcome to everyone else's world, right? So, to me, it just proved that the Chiefs being able to win as many games as they did, the one game that they don't catch all the breaks, all of a sudden they get their asses handed to them on the largest stage, kind of proves our point. But obviously J.J. Watt felt different. I'm excited to turn the page to 2025, though, Tim, so we don't have to talk about the refs anymore this year.
Amen.
Hopefully that rattled the NFL's cage, and that's what it kind of feels like it did, the fact that things got cleaned up in the Super Bowl there.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Saw a bad call that went the Chiefs' way early, and then we saw a makeup call immediately in the first quarter. So kind of two back-to-back drives, to kind of cancel each other out type of calls. And then I think after that, old Ronnie boy called, what he thought was a neutral game. And I think you're right. Once you take them out of the equation, which, let's be real, that's where the refs belong. They belong out of the equation. They shouldn't be influencing the outcome of any of these games. The whole purpose of replay and review is to get the call right. If you're not going to get the call right, what is the point? My mantra has always been, if there's any doubt, keep the flag in your pocket. Don't call anything. Let the guys play. And we saw them play last night, man. Philly's defense absolutely dominated in the trenches, in the middle, and on the back end. And to see Pat Mahomes that uncomfortable all day long was something we haven't seen in a while. So, yeah, man, I think you're right, man. Let's move on. Let's leave the refs out of it. And hopefully it was a wake-up call for the league. Let the players play, and let the refs be refs and be part of the background, not the spotlight. The players belong in the spotlight, not the refs.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And of course, we had this right here, Kelsey, before the game. It said it's killer Trav time, pointing at the watch as he was walking, I guess, back into the locker room before they were going to come out for the kickoff. You see him. What do you have, 2 catches, Tim? Is that what it was?
I don't know. Hope he's walking in that locker room to look for a barber, get a haircut.
I'm trying to see exactly what his stat line was here real quick, because they pretty much erased him from the game plan. Actually, he finished with 4 catches, 39 yards. So most of the night, I want to say they had him limited to 2 catches. Xavier Worthy showed up big time, though. 8 catches for 157 yards, 2 tutters, along with 50 on 8 targets. But again, you got to kind of see what happens when you're weak in the trenches, man. You know,
I did not have boat race on my bingo card in the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that. I had a feeling that Philly was going to come out strong and maybe have a lead at halftime, and then kept waiting for that inevitable Kansas City comeback. Felt like the tone was being set for a comeback, and it just never happened. So congrats to the Eagles, man. They fired up the boat, man.
Let's go to the chat. Josh Martin said this game showed that interior D-line is where we need to get. We need to get this offseason, not edge. Pressure up the middle is key. Yeah, I completely agree, Josh. But, the other thing that, as I was watching Twitter kind of blowing up and talking about that defense wins championships, it's true. You got a solid defense, you're going to have an opportunity to win the ball game. But you got to flip that on the other side too and look, okay, why were the Kansas City Chiefs not able to handle that, right?
Yep.
You better be built in the trenches on the offense as well. And again, I try to look at every game differently and kind of categorize them. Okay, why did the Packers lose this game? What happened? Why did it happen? I try to take that approach. And when we got beat by the Eagles, I didn't feel like it was because we didn't get penetration up the middle, right? I felt like it was we could not control the line of scrimmage when we were on offense. One injury, everything went all to hell when Elton went out, right? It was kind of on the rocks there. Now, when you talk about defensive line, to me, that's the second thing that comes to mind. So I'm right there with you, Josh. I don't want you to think I'm disagreeing with you, but yeah, it's in the trenches, man. It's why just about every mock draft we've done, man, you're looking up and going, okay, there's not a dominant center in this draft class other than Gray Zabel, who has now emerged all of a sudden magically as a center after the Senior Bowl, where he dominated. It sounded like practice all week. But it kind of makes sense with the way the draft lays out that you can get a top-tier interior defensive tackle. So I get that. But, man, just don't let the pendulum swing too far in the other direction where it's, okay, now we just need to build a strong defense like Philly did when you look up on the other side and go, oh, crap, we can't block their solid defense, right? So yep. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just kind of some ideas that were going through my head all night long watching the game unfold, because the key to that game was the same thing that happened to the Packers. They could not block the Philly front. They just couldn't. And you'll notice how the edges played for the most part. They were pressuring in the middle. They were pushing the middle of the pocket, and the edges were kind of playing that containment. Every time that Pat Mahomes tried to fade out, they did a real good job, Tim, playing with leverage on the outside. And what I mean by that is, how many times do you see defenders shoot to the inside shoulder of the quarterback, allowing him to scramble out? Last night, you've seen those guys staying really, really disciplined and aiming for the outside shoulder to force him back in, then up, back out. That's going to increase your chances of stopping the play. But what do you think about what Josh Martin says here, man, in terms of interior instead of edge?
I agree, but it's not instead of. It's in addition to. You can get better everywhere on defense and be a complete defense. I think one of the things that kind of backs up what you were just talking about is the ability of that Philly defense all damn night long to get pressure without blitzing. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mahomes had nowhere to go, and they barely were sending blitzes. They were able to get home with just 4 repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And, if you look at the way we played last year, we were only able to get home when we were blitzing, so that's a thing that starts at the trenches and kind of, validates your point about, just how poorly the Chiefs O-line played last night. You had guys getting home with 0 blitzes. And I don't know, it's kind of a testament to building a solid defense. I thought the Phillies linebackers played well, to your point again, knowing that Mahomes is a guy that's going to step up and out and over and try and run on you, and kind of working that into your approach as a defense to kind of, use your front and your linebackers to create contain, and I think Mahomes had a couple of scrambles. He was able to take off maybe 2 or 3 times, but he didn't beat you with his feet. They weren't able to run the ball. Kansas City was not really able to generate a run game at all, which was kind of surprising to me. And that's kind of what collapsed their offense as a whole. So definitely the trenches is where it's at. The only thing I would disagree with in that comment is defensive line instead of edge. I think it's both. I think you want to beef up your edge and your D line.
Got it. Patrick in the chat, thanks for all you do. Hey, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate you swinging through, man. We've had a blast talking ball with everybody this year, and I'm looking forward to many, many, many years to come if the good Lord blesses us with it. It's been a blast. It's been one of the more enjoyable football seasons I've ever got to experience because we've got to experience it with a lot of awesome people, no doubt. Artie Ironminer says, Packers lost to the Eagles doesn't look so bad now. Chiefs had zero answers for the Eagles. Boat race, defense, win championships. And like someone else said here, I think it was Ron Sample, said 0 blitzes for the Eagles, only sent 4. That's the key. If you can drop 7 into coverage, you get pressure with 4, you're good to go. I mean, when you look at the Packers and how they improved this year, there was at one point you were simulating a lot of pressure and dropping those guys out. And all of a sudden you look up and we're like, damn, we're a legit top 10 defense, right? You were showing this illusion that you were blitzing and you would run fire zone blitzes. So even though you might be blitzing a backer, you've got an edge. Most of the time it was Kingsley and Igbare dropping into coverage, right? Getting pressure with 4 is the key. There's no doubt about it, man. It's just easier said than done. Ron Sample says, interesting that the top quarterback in the league can't produce with constant pressure in his face and no quick separation by the receivers. Some said Jordan wasn't the one for that same exact thing. Such a good point, Ron. The only thing I would push back a little bit on is the 3 interceptions from Jordan. But, again, you look at the box score, you go, that's horrible. But you go watch the game, and 2 of those interceptions, one was a player stumble coming out of his break. The other one was the Eagles were shutting everything down, and he took a shot, right? Yep. Good throw. Defender just made a hell of a play. So it's not like, like Pat Mahomes, I know everybody was ranting and raving over Cooper DeJean. There ain't a DB in the league that couldn't intercept that ball. Pat Mahomes threw it right to him. To me, it looked like a miscommunication between him and the receiver, and DeJean was just lurking underneath. So I know we made it sound like – now listen to return. Boy, watching DeJean on returns, Tim, that boy's quick.
Scary. Yep.
Man, yeah, he is just so – Keyshawn Nixon, one of the best kick returners to do it in a long time. Keyshawn Nixon does not have the athletic ability that Cooper DeJean has, in my opinion. It's just what made Keyshawn so good at returning kicks and returning punts was he was mainly kicks. He's kind of fearless, right? Like he's not worried about that kind. That way you full speed into the problem with that is go back and watch the Eagles tape. It finally caught up to us, right? So pros and cons there. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Josh Martin says, seen reports yesterday that Tay is telling people he wants to play on the West Coast again. Also, that the Jets are looking to trade Tay instead of releasing him. Yeah, Tim, some news that broke yesterday. I'm pretty sure it's legit. The Jets have informed Aaron Rodgers they're going to move on. So, to me, that means Tay will not be there either. And obviously, it's no surprise with a $30-something million cap hit, and it was pretty much all salary, which means if they cut him, they free up a large majority of that money. And there were some rumors that like the Rams might be interested. The 49ers may be, the Chargers may be, teams like that. Green Bay was thrown in that mix as well. Anything changed on your front here with Tay? We should find out soon enough as roster cuts and things will start falling into place, I would imagine.
I mean, I don't know how we even entertain the idea of trading for him.
No.
If he's released, that's different. But if the Jets are going to try and trade him, then we're out, I think,
Definitely. Zacchaeus Earl says, you see what happens when you pick up free agents and utilize trades. Philly made all the necessary moves for a Super Bowl. Green Bay did good by signing Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. Hopefully they sign more. Yeah, I think that Goody is going to feel a lot better about dipping into free agency. But here's the problem I've got with it, Zacchaeus. Like, you don't have an Xavier McKinney out there this year, right? You don't have in my opinion, you don't have a Josh Jacobs sitting there. And what I mean by that is like, we're good at those positions now, right? Everybody feels good about safety. You've got Xavier McKinney. You've got Evan Williams. Kitano Ladapo, minimal snaps, looked like he belonged. There's potential you bring Zane Anderson back. He played pretty strong. I think it's safe to say that Javon Bullard should play in the slot. And maybe if you add a safety, you have the security there or the depth on your roster to keep Javon Bullard in the slot. That way he doesn't have to game plan for 2 different positions. That's a lot to put on a plate for a rookie, right? But yeah, I'm with you, man. If it makes sense. Now, the 2 free agents that come to mind for me, this is just me personally, is let me try to think here. Dahlman, center out of Atlanta. I'm not saying you break the bank for him, but he's hands down the best center on the market, right? And we'll kind of dip into that here in a little bit if we get the chance. Some of the free agents that are out there, but Dahlman at center, I would be okay with. And for me, if you say, Clayton, you got to choose a wide receiver this offseason, all the people that are available for trade, all the people that are available in free agency, I've been very vocal. Chris Godwin would be my guy. That's who I would like to have. On a 3-year deal, that's really a 2. That way, as he approaches 30, because I think he's 28 years old, if I remember correctly, he's a guy who could play multiple positions. He can play wide. He can kick in the slot. We know LaFleur loves those guys to be interchangeable. That's something that really gets just tossed to the wayside, Tim. People just think, he's just a slot receiver. Jaden's got to be willing and able to play Z, just like he did at Michigan State, because as that F's moving around, man, all these guys have got to be able to pretty much play every position. It's not just that dude's our slot. So if you mix Chris Godwin in there, and you've got Jaden Reed who can move around a little bit too, I feel like that's, a little bit better approach than maybe going out and trying to get like a Cooper Kupp, which Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel guys, they were the same player last year. They were grading out right about where our receivers graded out, and they both are dealing with injuries big time. So that's why. And Chris Godwin, 6'1", a little bit more size. I think he was 209, as someone said in the chat yesterday. To me, that makes the most sense. I don't know. Anything you want to add there to what Zacchaeus Earl said here in the chat, Tim? See what happens when you pick up free agents, utilize trades. Because Philly did, man. Listen, this is the second time in 7 years they put together a Super Bowl contending team, right? Meaning they've made it to the Super Bowl. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm with you with Godwin. I think Godwin might be the answer if we're out of the mix with Devontae. If they are going to try and trade him, I don't know if we trade with the Jets to get him. And if that's not an option, then you go with a guy like Chris Godwin in free agency. And, one of the things we leave out, we can talk X's and O's and on the field and all of that. We talk about veteran leadership. And Chris Godwin is one of those guys on that free agent list of receivers that provides that stable veteran leadership. He's a good teammate, good locker room guy. I think he fits the mold. He fits the culture here in Green Bay. And that would definitely be my move over some of the other names that are on that list. JB12 in here, Godwin coming off major injury. Yeah, but he's good to go. He was good to go, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the season. So it's not like he's coming out of rehab going into OTAs and things, going into this season. So I don't think it's as big of a concern, but I do agree. I mean, he's a veteran player. He's getting a little bit older. Right. The injuries you got to look at those under a little bit heavier of a microscope when guys start to get up there in their football age. But I'm not overly concerned about the injury with Godwin.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so with Godwin, again, if the Buccaneers had advanced in the playoffs, they said he was tracking to play in the playoffs. So when you say a major injury, he dislocated his ankle, right? They said he was good to go. So, in terms of the information we've got right now, he's good to go. There's not going to be any lingering effects of that dislocated ankle. There were some people that thought he had tore his ACL and done all this other damage because it looked gruesome, right? It's very similar, in my opinion, to like Dak Prescott when he hurt his ankle, right? It's not limited Dak at all, to the best of my knowledge. So, now if you're saying JB12, there's another receiver out there that's equal talent to Chris Godwin, and is not named T. Higgins. The ankle would come into play, no doubt about it. But when we're comparing him to people like Cooper Kupp, injury concerns, Deebo Samuel, injury concerns, you know what I'm saying? If when you say major injury, I guess you just have to specify what you mean by major injury, because again, he was planning on coming back, and you look at his injury history. I want to say he tore an ACL a few years ago, if I remember correctly, but he's played. There's multiple years that he's just been played dominant on the field. And again, Tim, you got to take into consideration the age-old conversation. Is it Mike Evans or is it him? In my opinion, Chris Godwin's been doing it so long, it's definitely both. They kind of feed off of each other. So will Chris Godwin be as effective in Green Bay where you don't have someone on the opposite side of him drawing attention away? Who knows? That's the big conversation with T. Higgins as well. So with T, I just get nervous because Godwin's like this, been known as this team guy. He's very, very team oriented. And T. Higgins is one of those dudes who's been kind of vocal and holding out and this and that. I just get a little bit nervous that you go give him a bunch of guaranteed money, and then all of a sudden you're a year in and we got Jair again. We're going, is he really hurt? Is he going to play? Are we going to trade him? It just doesn't. T. Higgins to me doesn't feel like a Goody move, right?
Yeah.
But Chris Godwin kind of does. That's just me. I could be wrong. All right, let's see here. Next comment. Number one Packer fan. I don't understand how it was political, though. I thought it was supposed to represent America, but maybe I'm wrong. I didn't take it that serious. That was the thing with me talking about the halftime show. Again, back to that. I found out later on in the night that, man, these people don't even understand what Kendrick was saying and what he was representing and this. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. He's evidently he was trying to make a political statement, and I was just too stupid to recognize it. And that's why people get so defensive. I'm looking at it for what it is. It's a halftime show. Yeah. I can't understand what he's saying because the sound quality is horrible and I don't know any of his music. So this is just kind of, let me go grab some more nachos and I'll get back when the game gets back on type of thing. So let's go to the poll question one more time here. As it sits right now, did you enjoy the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar? 74% said no, 26% said yes. All right, Drew D. According to Forbes, viewership was down 3%. So, yeah, they did take a little hit there, Tim. Usually it's up. Every year it's up, right? Yep. So it looked like there was some people that got tired of the Chiefs getting all those calls. So that's interesting. J. Cole, not going to lie, I want Myles Garrett now. Myles Garrett.
That's a fair point.
Myles Garrett, of all the edge defenders, man, he's that dude that man, he can really compress a pocket. And he's big enough. I feel like you could kick him into three tech.
I think so too. But, especially at this stage of his career, he's certainly experienced enough that if you wanted to move him, he could probably pull it off.
Yeah, and when we say three tech, what we're essentially saying is, can he handle the interior, right? Basically playing between the guard and the tackle is what you're looking at there, right? And it's much harder for defenses to roll the protection, slide the protection there when you got Rashawn Gary on the opposite side. That's the way I would want to use Myles Garrett. But let me throw this out there, Tim. And again, I don't think we're going to go get Myles Garrett. It could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just it doesn't make sense for Cleveland, and he's going to try to force their hand. I get it. And Cleveland's stupid enough they could do it, but I always try to put myself in that team's shoes, and I'm like, man, all the guaranteed money that's there that they've already mortgaged the future on, you better get hella compensation. And then that comes back to the Packers of, are you willing to give up that type of compensation to make it worth it for the Browns to move on? I would not be willing to give up, a first and a third and whatever else. You know what I mean? Like it's now if you couple Jai in there, if you said your first round pick and Jair Alexander for Myles Garrett, I'd be okay with that if the salary cap hit that you absorb with it sits how we think it sits, which is going to be kind of minimal on the team that's receiving him, because the guaranteed money is just going to accelerate to this offseason with the Browns. And like many people pointed out, the Browns are already way over on the cap, so it's going to be hard to make that work. They're going to have to mortgage the future at other positions to do that. So, but yeah, think about this, Tim. I want to get your take on this. Let's say in a perfect fantasy world here, the Packers were able to land Myles Garrett in a trade. Imagine this. Rashawn Gary on one side, Myles Garrett on the other, right, on the edge, and then you go draft a Kenneth Grant or a Walter Nolan or whoever Goody thinks is going to be a dominant three tech. Now you got him, Devontae White, and Kenny Clark fighting for playing time. You got Carl Brooks as your fourth best interior defensive lineman. You feel pretty good about that. But, man, Myles Garrett, Rashawn Gary on the edge, and then you go get in the first round a solid three tech, you feel a lot better about that. I do, at least. How do you feel about that? Because we talked about possibly playing Myles Garrett on the inside. I think if there's a player in the league that can handle it, he could. But.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I agree with your approach too. Like if you get a guy like that, hypothetically, you go to the draft and you go find a dog to play in the trenches. The problem is we have no idea how rookies are going to play in their first year. Not everybody is Cooper DeJean and comes into the league and plays well right away. Not everybody is Evan Williams for an example. I thought he played really well as a rookie. Let's talk about Edgerrin Cooper. Oh my goodness, that guy doesn't look like a rookie. Those guys, you hit on them once or twice or 3 times a year in the draft. You know, a lot of guys, they hit the NFL, they need that first season to get their legs under them and develop. And I just don't know how confident I am that going to the draft that we're just going to find some 3-tech that's just going to dominate the league in his rookie year. There's going to be learning curve. There's going to be bumps in the road. So I think when it comes to edge or, in the middle there, you've got to kind of make your decision. Where are you going to go after that vet, and a guy like Myles Garrett does strengthen up your line, but, we're still developmental in the middle then, because we're adding another rookie to the mix. Like you said, we don't know, really what's going to go on with Kenny, and how much he's going to play. A big thing would be Carl Brooks, a guy like that taking a step, Devontae Wyatt taking another step in the middle there. So I agree with the approach, but I just don't want to get caught up in, we drafted this guy, he's going to be a monster. And then, he's not, and everybody's all pissed off, It's like kind of the same deal. You put your faith in the draft and you get a guy, and if he's not a monster right away out of the gate, everybody's all mad about draft and develop, So I think you got to kind of handle those. You got to kind of juggle those both, and hopefully you find a balance there.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Samble had a question I want to come back to. I'm going to keep it marked. He said, anyone notice Ja's response to the Packers' happy birthday wish? Any thoughts? Ron, let us know where to find that response. I went to Twitter and that tweet that the Packers put out for his birthday. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't see him commenting there. So maybe he did it on IG or something.
I don't think Ja's been on Twitter in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So, let us know where to find that, Ron, or just put in the chat what was his response. I'd be interested to see because, again, everything went quiet, right? And we're still at that 50-50, right, Tim? Unless have you changed, Tim?
No, I haven't.
Still 50-50.
I'm still 50-50 on that.
Got it.
But I do like the high school gossip that happens this time of year where we all, generate the rumor mills and we read into things, and I love it.
What did he mean by that winky emoji?
Yeah, what did that mean?
I'll tell you this, man, as much as you roll your eyes at a lot of that stuff, it does get you through the off season pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
With the conversations that are created. Damon Stewart, good to see you, everybody. He says, has there ever been a halftime show that was unanimously loved? No, that's the point, right? Like, that's what blew me away.
I'm old enough to remember MJ. I think that would be my front runner.
Probably the closest one. That or Prince. Prince was solid, right? Because Prince was one of those dudes that he pushed back against the narrative a little bit. He was going to do what he wanted to do, rather than what do people think he should do. But,
you're talking about Michael Jackson and Prince. I mean, arguably like 2 of the greatest performers of all time in the history of music, period. Yeah. So they're going to have more of that unanimous kind of appeal. I think with Kendrick, he's popular in hip hop, but I don't think, mainstream, he's probably not as, mainstream accepted as some other artists are, regardless of what genre they're in. So I don't know. I think we'd have to say MJ or Prince probably for a unanimous decision by America, loving the performance. So I feel like last night, I think people that, they ride with Kendrick, they like that music, they're into that style of hip hop, they loved it. Anyone who's kind of on the outside or, not really into that, they probably didn't enjoy it. Probably went over their heads a little bit.
Gotcha. Ron Samuel says he's going to look that up for us. Thank you so much, Ron. He said he's pretty positive in his opinion. So it sounded like it was a positive response. And I thought it was cool the Packers sent it out there too, right?
Yep.
Which they do that for every player. It's not like if they hadn't done it, we'd be going, whoa, wait a minute.
I mean, we've seen them give birthday tweets and then,
right. That's a good point. Happy birthday. Here's your pink slip. Hell out of here. That's hilarious right there. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. But yeah, I don't think there was anything, over the years that was unanimously loved, but the closest thing to it would probably have been Michael Jackson's. And I'm still, my opinion, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem. No one will ever touch that, I don't think. No. I think she's still the queen of that for sure. Yep. Jason Y said, is Dalman good or great? That's a great question, Jason. I don't know if I would consider him great, right? It depends on what you mean by great. You know what I mean? Like, so if I were to go to PFF right now, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm just going to kind of see where he ranked. I think I can go free agents. Matter of fact, I do have it already over here. Give me just a second. I want to see when you say great, what would you consider great? That's the question, right? Everybody's probably got a different view on what is great and what isn't. Drew Dalman is the 22nd best free agent according to PFF. Okay, now where did he grade out? In 2022, he was the 14th best center. In 2023, he was the 3rd best center. In 2024, he was the 4th best center. So you're talking about a center who's grading out borderline top 3, definitely top 5 in the last 2 years. Is that considered great? I would consider that great, Tim. I mean, that's why it's important to look at the grades across those specific positions, because it's easy to go, wow, this guy's awesome, right? Because he's in the 90s, but then you look up and there's 13 other players that are in the 90s at that position. You go position by position and compare apples to apples. I would say Dalman's been great. Do you disagree with that, Tim? Again, 3rd best center and then 4th best center at an 82.3 and a 78.8.
No, I don't disagree. I'm kind of with Drew D. If you're top 5 2 years running, I think that qualifies.
Yeah. And I love the question, Jason. That's the filter we want to run that stuff through right there, right? Are they good or are they great? We're willing to overpay for great. We're not willing to overpay for good. If it was somebody that was, 12th and 10th and 13th and 9th, I'd be going, probably very good, but not great,
right,
type thing. So love that conversation. Hugh in the chat says, I love that Janet Jackson. Hey, that Janet Jackson one was, other than I know why some people liked it, but that was a good show though, until the end. It was like, you didn't need to do that, bub. That was a pretty good halftime show. Why did we have to go that route?
I love how they played it off like it was an accident, as if every single second of a halftime show at the Super Bowl isn't planned and choreographed and scripted.
And let me tell you something. Janet crushed it. But that was some bad acting at the end, acting surprised there. Just saying. Donovan Schilling, could Max handle 3 tech? I don't think could he handle it? Yeah, he could handle it, Donovan. But that's not the type of player he is, in my opinion.
Max Crosby, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that guy's pure edge rusher, man.
Yeah, because he's so – here's the thing. Here's the reason I say that is both him and Myles Garrett are tall. Don't get me wrong. They got that length on them that they can, bend around the edge, and they got reach. And I'm trying to think of who it was. I was talking to someone who was talking about Max and what offensive linemen say about him. He's very awkward to block because of his build, right? But yeah, I see him strictly as an edge. Now, if you put him at 3 tech, would he have success? He probably would, but I don't think he would have the success he has at edge. Myles Garrett got some meat on the bone. That boy is thick, and he's just solid muscle, and it's just like that's a dude you could see playing a 3. Now, would he want to play it? I don't know, and that would probably come into factor too, Tim, if he's strictly, hey, I want to play edge, and here are my options. If the Browns do say we're going to trade you, and he's willing to adjust that optional aspect of his contract to make that work, that's different, right? And matter of fact, that's right on cue here. Josh Martin said Myles Garrett did say he would do whatever it takes Wise to get traded. Now, you'll hear some of the cap gurus say, nope, it's impossible. When you see that number on those options, on the optional aspect of the contract, that's when you got to take a step back and go, okay, we don't truly understand the stipulations there. That's something that could get – that's what happened with Aaron. That's why everybody was, did they do that when he took that pay cut when he went to the Jets because of that option bonus that they had? They said it was a 1 plus a 2 with the option of a 3 is what that new contract was in Green Bay. What happened? He played 1 year in Green Bay, and they traded him, and they adjusted the contract. So, again, you don't want to get too far into the weeds because we're not on the inside looking at that entire that contract as an entirety. And some people who try to act like experts, they speak just enough or they give themselves a little wiggle room that if they're wrong, they can, well, no, I didn't. It's just going to have to let that one play out. But if he said that and he's willing to work with the contract, that makes it a lot different for sure, Josh, because that makes it a little more appealing for the Browns to trade him, obviously. Right. Although, the Browns want him. There's no doubt about that. But if he's just going to hold out and cause problems, probably best just to move on,
It's kind of what you're saying, like forcing their hand a little bit, right?
And he did it the most respectful way, didn't he, Tim? Like that letter was like, I love Cleveland. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I just feel like I need to move on.
Yep.
That's the way you handle it rather than, just letting the media handle it.
And then following it up with these comments, hey, whatever it takes, if I got to restructure, whatever we got to do, we'll figure out the numbers. Just get me the hell out of here, please. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Was Ron able to run that down? I'm really interested in what Josh said, which it probably ain't nothing, but probably blowing that out of proportion. But I haven't seen him comment in here. So
no, I haven't seen it yet.
If you see it come through, let me know, man. Because I'd like to know exactly. Two Tone said we should try LVN at 3 Tech. I'd be okay with that. Two Tone, that kind of fits. That kind of fits his game. Go back and watch the San Francisco game this year, right? And watch how he beat a double team block and threw Christian McCaffrey out of the club to get the sack, right? Yeah. He's one of those quickness, burst, and power, but he doesn't have a wide array of moves, right? That fits more of a 3 Tech, in my opinion, than someone on the edge. You got to do a move, a counter move, whatnot. You want someone who's stout, can hold that. Now, with LVN, if you were going to play him at 3 Tech, and let's say you went another route and got another edge defender and say, okay, we're going to kick LVN to 3 Tech to rotate with Kenny and these guys. He's a pretty good run defender, too, in my opinion. PFF disagrees strongly, but when I watch the tape, I feel like he's very aware of where the back is, where the quarterback is. He plays the game pretty good like that. Put another 10 pounds on him, though, Tim. Beef him up.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, that frame can handle it.
Yeah, we're going to have to get him over to Culver's for some burgers and some curds and some shakes, and then, hit the weight room, bulk up a little. I could see it. Can you imagine if he put on another 10 pounds and we had him in the middle? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and again, it's when you do the exit interviews, right, the coaches, they meet with the players and they try to give them, I'm pretty sure it's on the exit interviews, they give them a target weight already for the next year. Now, that probably changes as you get into the offseason. You make different roster moves, but that could have been something that was said, right? Hafley and LaFleur could have said, hey, man, we want you to put on 15, 20 pounds this offseason. Throw it on. Here's your target weight. That's why you start hearing those rumblings when players come back for the offseason program. All of a sudden, they're overweight when they were supposed to get underweight, and that's that's kind of what happened with Sean Ryan last year. Now, Sean Ryan took the criticism in stride and played decent football, I think, to everybody's surprise. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got in here. Anybody else? Yeah, I'm eager to see that too. Coach Lamb brings up a great point. How did Creed Humphrey play last night? I don't think the grades are out yet. I will double check here. Tim, on the surface, it doesn't feel like Creed Humphrey dominated. You know what I mean?
Well, it definitely didn't dominate. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he played horrible, but there was more than one time I saw him getting, we'll just say ass over tea kettle, getting
right.
Having trouble with Mr. Sweat and the boys up there on that Philly front. Yeah, I think Creed Humphrey had, I'm not going to say the worst game he's ever had, but he certainly wasn't his best performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, the grades aren't out yet, so we'll see a little later. I'm interested to see what they graded him too, for sure. Drew D said, with rumors that the Jets don't want Rodgers back, Rodgers to Minnesota is one step closer. Hey, you're not kidding, Drew.
You don't say that. You don't say that.
First thing that went through my mind, that would complete the entire story of what Brett Favre did, right? You go to the Jets, then you come back to the Vikings, and then obviously, I'm okay with it, Tim, and I'll tell you why. If Rodgers goes to the Vikings, this is what it means. This year, they beat us 2 times, and then next year we win the damn Super Bowl. There you go. Let me ask you that, Tim. Here we go. You ready? Get ready. You have to choose one or the other. All right. That scenario I just laid out for you, if it guaranteed you a Super Bowl next year, would you be willing to sit through this year of Rodgers beating us twice in Minnesota?
A, I still think Rodgers is going to the golf course. B, the only thing that's going to get us a guaranteed Super Bowl is beefing up the trenches and bringing in maybe 1 or 2 more veteran leaders on this team to get us over the hump. But yeah, I mean, hey, we've been through it before. I don't, well, not all of us, shout out to the younger group of the fan base that, hasn't experienced a Super Bowl win and hasn't had to live through, Brett going to the Jets and to the Vikings and yes, handing it to us during the regular season and getting to an NFC title game, with our mortal enemies. But yeah, I would take it if that meant we get to the show and we bring Lombardi home. I'd sit through it. At this point, there's no love lost for me with Aaron, and honestly, this league now, you really don't see guys play their whole career in one spot anymore. It's kind of kind of a antiquated mentality to think that someone's going to get drafted by a team and, play 17, 18, 19, 20 years. Some of these guys in one spot, it just doesn't happen very often anymore. I'd be willing to sit through it. I don't think it would be too traumatizing.
Yeah, to know there's a Lombardi on the backside, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what was so traumatizing about the Favre thing, was like, he's going to win a damn Super Bowl with the Vikings. And luckily it didn't happen. That New Orleans game happened, which is awesome. Which Brett commented on the whole Bounty Gate thing here recently. I don't know if you've seen that, Tim. That was interesting. He wasn't like upset about it. He's like, hey, man, that's football. They did what they had to do. It was that kind of a problem. Like, God, I love that.
That's old school right there.
Old school.
He said, hey, Brett, what'd you think of Sean Payton? And Brett's like,
he was the best guy around.
What Bounty Gate? Coach Lynn says lots of symbolism in the halftime show yesterday. Yeah, Coach, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand what you're talking about, but based off of the people that were calling me a racist because I didn't like the show, there had to be another underlining something there that I didn't fully understand. So I would say you're probably right there. That was wild reaction just to saying, I didn't like that one. Not that good. Prince in the chat says Rodgers to the Raiders. That'd be interesting, boy. That'd be really interesting. Rodgers to the Raiders and Tay goes back to the Raiders. Could you imagine that? Lord have mercy.
Make me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Nothing would surprise me at this point, man, with the way this season's gone.
Exactly.
Last few seasons. Ron Sample says, can't find it, fellas. I think it was Facebook. I'll keep looking. Hey, don't worry about it, Ron. It's cool, man. I just didn't know if you know right offhand. That's awesome. I'm sure it was on IG that he responded because, like Tim said, I don't think he's done anything on Twitter in a long time. So, but appreciate you, man. All right, let's see here. Prince says cancel culture comes for Clayton. Circle the wagon, boys. It's wild. It's funny too because I catch it on both sides because you guys know politically I hate politics. I hate both parties, and I catch it from both of them. That's the way that works. But I got broad shoulders. I can handle it, man. It's the way it goes. Yep. I call it like I see it, man. There's crooked ass people on both sides of the aisle, and they don't give a damn about any of us. And all they do is they invest every bit of their time, energy, and effort in dividing us because they know when we're divided as close to 50% as possible, that's when we're the weakest. If we all come together as a nation, we don't have to worry about people dividing us because of race or, economic status or anything else.
Taste in music, whatever.
Exactly.
Like big shocker. Everybody doesn't agree on everything.
Right. That's what makes this country great, man. And it's a country of people from all over the world, that came here legally. Let me say that. They came here, you know what I mean? That this is the tough. Yeah, we shouldn't even be talking about this stuff. I've got friends from other countries who can't get into the country now because we've screwed up our immigration situation so bad over the last however many years that you've got great, honest people who care about other human beings. I'm not talking about criminals who want to come in here and do bad things to citizens. Like, they want to come here because of the American dream that everybody that's probably in the chat, you can look back not too far and see where your ancestors fought their ass off to get out of a bad situation to get an opportunity at a free country. And that's all getting screwed up because our elected officials don't know how to keep that intact. It's just like the same conversation with election integrity and all that. Like, it's not just, did my guy win? It's, we got to all know, hey, all right, man, that's who the country chose. Let's get behind it, no matter which side of the aisle it's on. And we don't have that benefit anymore because everybody's questioning everything constantly. It sucks, man. It sucks.
Clay, you're making sense. Stop, please.
And again, people are so dug in on their side. And this is the thing, man, it doesn't make them bad people. I was raised a way to believe one way. And that way was, listen, Republicans hate us. We're poor. Democrats want to take care of us. And as I got older, I went, whoa. I'm starting to
realize neither one of those things was true.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just lining their pie. Anyway, it is what it is, man. But just, again, take care of each other. That should be the main message. Let's stop trying to divide and all that. But
amen.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the Patreon group. Appreciate everybody in there. Thank you all for supporting. If you guys want to join our Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right or go to patreon.com/PackerFan total access. If you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, you got, I think the cheapest tier is like $2 or $3, something like that. You can have access to all the chats. It's a way for you to support the channel. And then we do giveaways to give back to those who are supporting the channel, things like that. But anyway, Chris N says, as much as we all love Josh Jacobs, should Goot paid the extra few bucks guaranteed and landed Saquon? I mean, we're only talking about a small difference in cap. Chris, I think that's a very good question. I think it's not off the rails at all. I think Goot seen something in Josh Jacobs that he didn't in Saquon. And for me personally, it's easy for us to forget. This is just the way I would answer that question. First of all, which one would you rather have, Saquon or Josh Jacobs? I'm probably leaning towards Saquon. I'd say, yeah, listen, Saquon was the better player this year. There's no doubt in my mind. But he had a much better offensive line, right, than Green Bay did in terms of run blocking, according to whatever metric you want to look at. But also we forget that Saquon had a lot of injury concerns, Tim. That was another thing. Like, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? He stayed healthy, and you've seen what he can do when he stays healthy. And there's obviously some extra motivation there, too, going to a division rival of the team that said, nah, you're not worth it, But, yeah, what do you think about that? Anything you want to add to that? I mean, for me, the answer would be, yeah, I would have been okay with that, with hindsight being 2020. But going into that process, I'm not going to sit here and BS everybody like I wouldn't have been nervous about Saquon's injury history. So
Exactly. I mean, and this is kind of tough for me to answer because it's like, hey, do you want a brand new Corvette or you want a brand new Ferrari? What's like, you're talking about 2 superstars here. But I think the correct answer is yours. I would not have been mad at all. I think Saquon's a beast. I think Josh Jacobs is a beast. We might be splitting hairs here a little bit. Clearly Saquon had more of the numbers, more output. But like you said, better O-line, and also a defense that kept giving the ball back to that offense all year long, So the answer is yes, I would not have been mad at all if we landed Saquon.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Next, Craig S. in the Patreon group said the Eagles fans complained all season that Jalen Hurts isn't the guy and Sirianni isn't a great coach. You don't have to be a Hall of Famer to win a Super Bowl. Let's just enjoy and support our team. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement too. And yeah, they were trying to run Sirianni out of town. You guys remember earlier in the season we were looking at where Matt LaFleur lands all-time winning percentage. Well, guess what? Sirianni's higher than him. It's like I remember going, damn,
yeah.
Why is Sirianni catching all the heat? This dude's done nothing but win. Yep. Now he's got that ring. So, but I will say this, Tim, in Philly, that doesn't matter. You've seen what happened with Doug Peterson. Right?
Yep.
Wins the Super Bowl, was it 2-3 years later? They're running him out of town.
I think it was really quick.
Yeah.
1 or 2 seasons and he was gone.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, next question. Watching the Eagles a bit. Let me go ahead and mark that. Watching the Eagles a bit and the Super Bowl, one thought comes to mind: the trenches, build the wall on offense, more time. Boy, Emilio would love you. Which, by the way, that knucklehead's in here in the chat acting like he's out there busy today. We know he's sitting on his couch.
He's sitting in a truck right now, thumbing at his phone.
Yeah. Our resident, he can get away with this. I can't. Okay, he said our resident Mexican here, Emilio, says legally depends on the size of the fence. So, yeah, if that offended someone, just unsub to the channel. We have fun here, and we don't take anything too serious. So.
Sit your butt outside.
That's for you, Emilio. Get back to work, by the way. Anyway, he says, on offense, more time for Love, open lanes for Jacobs. For defense, pressure the quarterback and cause sacks, fumbles, and interceptions. Hope Goody gets her done. Also, Rodgers out of New York, ? Does this increase our chances of getting Adams for a better bargain? Brings a lot of experience and work ethic to the wide receiver room. I think the way that affects the Devontae Adams situation, Dave, and this is Dave Colvin in our Patreon group, I think that we all thought there's a good chance that the Jets would just cut Devontae and move on because there's all that money to free up. And, I mean, there's a chance you could trade him. What you're going to do, I imagine what the Jets would do, and they may have already done it, is called around and said, hey, would you guys be interested in Tay for what price, for what draft pick? And if it's no, we'll just wait till you cut him, then a team could pop up and go, here's a 7th round pick, right? That's better than nothing. And it could be a conditional 7th round pick, right? So that's probably how that game's played. there. But yeah, with Rodgers out with the Jets, Tim, I believe that it's highly unlikely that Tay would return to the Jets. I just don't see that happening. Do you?
No, I don't. And I saw a report too that, or I don't know if it was a report or a comment on that story about that's kind of the scuttlebutt coming out of Jersey. There is that it's going to be Aaron and Tay are not going to be Jets next year, and the fact that Aaron hopped on a flight out there to meet with them in person to discuss the future kind of shoots a hole in my theory that Aaron's probably going to hang it up. I think that kind of shows that maybe, he was serious about, coming back for another year. But now if Tay's not going to be there, is this the whole, we're, like you said, we're going to do this all over again. Are they going to go to the Raiders? Are both of them? We know Tay's probably not going to end up in Minnesota with Aaron if that happened, but never say never in this league, right? You don't know.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, that'll do it for the Patreon questions. Appreciate you guys for supporting the show. Y'all are awesome over there. We're going to get our draft contest rules set up. Everyone who's in the Patreon group, we're going to give everyone the opportunity to put together their best mock draft, and we're going to save it in a file and have everybody's name attached to it. And whoever gets the most accurate draft class, mock draft, I should say, that's closest to what the Packers actually end up doing, you're going to win a prize. We're going to give away probably an autographed piece of memorabilia, something like that. I'm really excited about putting the rules together for that giveaway. That's going to be very interactive, very fun. So, again, thanks to everybody over at Patreon for supporting the channel. Let's go to the chat. Aaron Rodgers says last night showed how much we need to address the trenches. That's the common theme today, Tim, and it does make me proud that we've been talking about this for well over 2 months.
Yep.
That, hey, here's the issue we're faced with is when you say in the trenches, I'm specifically talking about defensive tackle. That's me personally. And I know many people think, hey, you should go get an edge, kind of like the last Patreon question there. Edge would help. It would. But, again, LVN, that means you're giving up on LVN. And the dude had almost a 12% pressure rate last time I checked. So, with his limited playing time, he was actually doing good things. That's why I would much rather see you attack the interior. The problem with that is in free agency, I don't think there's an interior guy out there, to be honest with you. Let me share the free agents here real quick according to PFF, and let's see if I'm missing somebody, Tim, but I don't think I am. Let me just zoom out a touch. We've got it on centers right now, so let's go with interior defenders. Here are the best available right now. Keep in mind, too, guys, that there are going to be guys come available. There's going to be cuts made, cap casualties, what have you, before the league year starts. So there's going to be some names added to this, but based off of precedent, teams are far less willing to come off of their true three techs, right? Because they're so rare in the league. But
yep.
Osa, I always mess this name up. I'm just going to call him Osa. Played for Dallas last year, 4 years, $21.2 million is the projected contract here, according to, I think they tie Spot Track in with PFF. It seems like those numbers are usually pretty similar. His PFF grade 68, 77, 68. For me, you'd be overpaying for good, not overpaying for great there. 32nd ranked free agent is Milton Williams. Okay, this name's been talked about a lot here lately. He's going to be 26 years old. Obviously, got his ring finally there in Philly. May not be back. Who knows? He may sign back with Philly too. If there's anybody who values defensive line, it's them.
Yep.
3 years, $21 million average per year is the tag on him, or the price on him. 72, 70, and 75. He's more appealing than Osa there at the top. And then you Levi Onwuzurike, I think is how you say it, Onwuzurike maybe, from Detroit. 2 years, $8.2 million per. His PFF grade must have been hurt in 2022, or maybe he wasn't in the league yet. I'm thinking he was hurt. 68 and 70, not willing to overpay for that. But $8 million per, a lot more palatable than the 20+ million that we talked about with the first two guys. What do you think about these guys here on the surface, Tim?
I think you're right. I think I'd take Williams here from Philly. Looks a little more. He's probably the most intriguing out of the three we just discussed. But I don't see either any of these guys really being that impact guy that we're looking for. I just like you said, you overpay for great, not for good. These guys look like solid, good players, but I'm too drunk to taste that chicken, as you would say, right?
Absolutely. Next, you got B.J. Hill out of Cincinnati. They projected him $10 million per. 68, 67, and 70 was his PFF grades. Calais Campbell, we're talking about Khalil Mack, people like that. The ageless wonder put together a sensational 2024 season as he nears 40 years of age.
Here's
with
the guy.
trade-off in his own paraphrased words of losing some speed over time, but maintaining brute strength. This reality is reflected in Campbell's elite PFF run blocking grades. I don't know why it says run blocking, probably meant run defense, as he can still hold up at the point of attack as well as anyone. It's probably up to Campbell whether he plays next year and where exactly he may be. 76, 80, and 82 for 1 year. If he truly is going to get a contract for $3 million, Tim, give me him for 1 year.
Yep.
Veteran leadership. We're talking about you got to get young, or you got to get a little bit older on the roster because we keep making these mistakes, and the youngest team in the league's never won a Super Bowl. All those things we mentioned. I would be, if you can get Calais Campbell for $5 million or less for 1 year, shoot, I about cuss. Sign me up.
Yep.
Sign me up, Tim.
Absolutely. Especially when you look at the snap counts, even as he's aging, he's still staying in that decent range. He's still playing. He's not going to play like he did when he was in his 20s, but certainly not a guy that's just going to, take every other play off. This guy's going to be available. And yeah, you're right. It's kind of amazing that he's pushing 40, but still grading out in the 80s, highly effective player. We know he fits the mold too. You talk about a locker room guy, you talk about a team leader, talk about a guy that is a leader in the community too. I think he would be an asset to the community here in Green Bay for sure. And I'm with you, man. Yeah, that $3 to $4.8 million range for a year, I would definitely roll the dice. If you're talking about an old dog coming into this young team, I would definitely take the gamble on Calais Campbell for sure.
Yeah, I can see that too. Jaron Reed, 61, 63, and 70. Poona Ford, 56, 59, and this year he jumped to an 85.3. Now, he's 29 years old, right? Again, one of those guys that had his best career year. I don't know, that kind of feels like that's the grade that doesn't belong. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
You'd be a little bit wary there. But again, if you get him at less than $5 million, I'd be okay with Poona Ford. Again,
Yep.
If you don't have that guy that's like, hey, he's in his prime, he's young, go get him, lock him down. He's going to be top 10 at his position for the next 5 years. Then I would rather go with a little bargain deal, add a little veteran help there. You could get two of these guys for the price of one. For example, like if you were to go after, let's say Milton Williams, right? Milton Williams, which again, pretty intriguing, ranked 28th, 32nd, and 15th at his position over the last 3 years. You're talking about $20 million per. Would you rather have one Milton Williams, where you're one injury away from losing that acquisition, right? Or would you rather go get Calais Campbell for $5 million and someone like Poona Ford for $5 million? Half the price, two solid players at extra depth. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
We know what Jacob would say to this, right? He would say, give me that deal.
Give me that Clarence, right? Let's go talk to Uncle Clarence about this one. What he would say. So let's see. Is there another? There's not. Okay, so that's basically all the defensive tackles within the top 100. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, hey, boys, I said that I wanted Garrett or Crosby, but after last night, Josh Sweat will look really good in the Packer uniform. Let's look at Josh Sweat because his name got kind of tossed around a lot on Packers Twitter last night. Josh Sweat is the 10th ranked free agent, right, in the league. Now, here's the issue, right? He had an awesome Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if he grades out elite, right? He was in the backfield most of the night. Look at the PFF grades over the years, 83, 67, and 70. Okay. He's projected $18 million per. He's 27 years old. So you could give him a 3-year deal, get out of it after 2, right as he approaches 30 in case he hits the wall. But, Josh Sweat to me wasn't dominant this year. That's why the grades matter too. And we'd have to look at the stats, the pressure rate, all that stuff. I'm sure he had a good pressure rate, or else he wouldn't be on this list ranked 10th overall. I don't know, Tim, what do you think about Josh Sweat? Would you be on board with that, or would you just judging strictly by the PFF grades? And again, it's not everything. It's just a metric we can use. I don't know, man. I'd be a little wary of $18 million per for a guy who's going to grade out essentially the same as Devontae Wyatt has on the interior, right?
Yep, very true. And you talk about hitting the wall. I mean, if we're going based off of PFF, he may have already hit that. But hey, great example. I mean, last night, the biggest game of your life, the biggest game, that matters. And you balled out, played really well. So, there's some value there. He's not that old. He's going to be 28. I just think you're right. It's a bit of a reach in the salary department for somebody like that, who's kind of a gamble. Like, are you going to get that 2022 version of him? Are you going to get that Super Bowl performance that we saw last night version of him throughout a season? Or are you going to get the guy that's grading in the high 60s and low 70s? And, we've got a couple guys like that on our line already. So I agree with you on that one for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to look here. He may be listed as a backer because Fangio's defense is a 34, which, by the way, Fangio, boy, that everybody's saying that the Fangio defense is dead. Pretty hilarious, right?
Yeah.
How it's just all of a sudden reemerged, right? Again, you got to have the dogs to run it is the main thing. Okay, so he may be listed as a linebacker. I'm trying to get his pressure percentage just to kind of compare apples to apples here. And again, at linebacker, it's tough because the numbers are overinflated for sure. Qualified defenders only. Let's do that. Let's see if he pops up here now. I want to see his pressure rate. Josh Sweat's who we're talking about, right, Tim?
Yep.
Okay. Josh Sweat, pressure percentage 10.8%. 10.8. And he had 8 sacks. All right. Now, when you look at linebackers, and we actually don't have run stops. So, again, remember that. What was that number again? Was it 8%?
I think so. I was looking at the comments.
No, 10, okay, that's okay. 10.8%, all right, with 8 sacks. 10.8%. All right. Now let's go over to the Packers here, or actually let's just go back to defensive line, and let's see. 10.8% is what we're looking for here. Where's our boy LVN? Gary was at 13.4%, okay, significantly higher. And let's see where LVN was.
But how many sacks did he have, Clayton?
Right, exactly. Let's see. Yeah, so he's not even listed. Let's go Packers. I apologize for the delay. I just want to compare and contrast here. You talk about 10.8% pressure rate. And then on our team here for the Packers, we have LVN was at 11.2% is where he finished. Yeah, with 3 sacks and significantly less snaps than Josh Sweat.
Yep.
So
again, overpay for great, not for good.
And he's good. Josh Sweat's good.
Yep.
And boy, oh boy, did he improve his stock last night?
Oh yeah.
The market is going to be way on the high side for Josh Sweat after that game last night. So for me, Mike, for the right price, yeah, I'm okay with it. 18 million per, if that number holds true, and it won't be exactly. It could be much cheaper. It could be much more. I would have to say no for me, but I can understand how you'd have that opinion for sure. Thank you for the super chat there, man. All right. Let's see. Where are we at? The hour 7 mark. We got time. Drew, you're not in a hurry, are you, Tim? You got anything to do, bub?
Oh, man, we're talking ball. I'm here. Right. Let's go.
Drew, it's cool to take kind of the end of the season and put it all like one big episode. All right, here's what the 2 best teams in the league did. Here's their strengths. Here's their weaknesses. How does that affect the Packers? Drew D says Saquon Barkley had a better season, but he's older and didn't have that great of a Super Bowl. That's a good point, too. I had the box score pulled up, and, of course, I closed it out like a knucklehead. They held him in check, Tim. It's obvious the Chiefs' goal was, hey, do not let Saquon run loose. The problem was Jalen Hurts showed the hell up. I mean, those deep balls were on the money, were they not, man?
That's what I'm saying, and I think you got to credit Philly's game plan offensively, too. They smelled that a mile away. They knew Kansas City was going to go after that run game. And, I think Jalen Hurts went into that game knowing he's going to have to air it out at times. We saw a lot of aggressive calls, particularly in that, I believe it was third going into the fourth quarter, when you start to think, oh, it's time to run the football and run some clock. And what do we see? Bam, shot play up the seam, And it's like those are the type of calls that you just really respect these coordinators and coaches when they're willing to kind of we're playing chess, not checkers out there. So if you want to sell out against the run, or you're going to make that effort against the run, then we're not going to hesitate to air that ball out, especially when you've got talented receivers too, and you got a big target like AJ Brown down there, and then of course Jalen Hurts' his ability to hurt you with his feet, and we saw that too. He did it with his legs last night. They kind of manufactured that run game when they needed it. And I totally agree. I think Saquon didn't have the greatest Super Bowl, but I thought he played well enough and he helped his team win. So you can't take anything away from him. But I think it was a testament to Philly's plan all along, really.
Yeah, definitely. Holmes MD1 said, "Did you guys see AFAM's mustache during the Pringles commercial?"
We're going to give him some
been the best commercial of the night. If you guys didn't see that one, that was good. Mandy, it got a good pop out of Mandy, man. When it showed Mr. Potato Head's mustache fall off too, I was cracking up. But Aaron Rodgers says, question. I have a question for y'all in the chat. With how many pass rushers are being rumored to be available, if Goot doesn't land one of them, does his seat get hot? Absolutely not, Aaron. Absolutely not, in my opinion. The only way Goody's seat's going to get hot is if they go back-to-back years under 500 and don't even sniff the playoffs. Yeah, not providing one specific position. I don't think it'll get hot. That's just me personally. Tim, what do you think there, man? I may be off base here.
Nah, 100% agree with you on that. I think it would take some monumental failure and shortcoming to really have him on the hot seat. And I don't think Goody's only had the keys here for a handful of years. It's been his show, and I think we can agree to disagree when it comes to draft strategy and who he likes to draft and RAS scores and all of that kind of stuff. But bottom line, I think it's going to take a lot more than just not grabbing a pass rusher here to put Goody on the hot seat.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel, man. Again, these type of conversations and the fan bases that are like, yeah, okay, well, if you don't get this specific position, you're on the hot seat, or if you do get this position, oh my God, we've got the ultimate roster now. That's how the Bears fans are. They win every offseason. And then you look up during the year and everybody's surprised. Why ain't they winning? Because again, you're leading with emotion. You're leading with, well, we just watched the Super Bowl. Okay, that team did this really well in the Super Bowl. Therefore, we got to build our entire roster around that and forget. And I'm not saying Aaron's doing this in the chat. I'm just this is how people think, right? Yeah. Like, again, why did we lose to the Eagles? Why did the Chiefs lose to the Eagles, right? Everybody's looking at it.
They didn't pick Cooper DeJean.
Oh, my God, man. It's hilarious that it's like people want Goody gone because we didn't take DeJean, but they don't even mention Edgerrin Cooper. They don't even mention Evan Williams. Like, these guys, like, would you trade Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams for Cooper DeJean? Because that's the difference in the draft class. And if the argument is, well, you could have had them all, you're expecting Goody to be absolutely perfect in the draft, and that does not happen in the league. Does not happen.
It doesn't happen with any GM in the league.
All right.
Hey, how long do you think it would take Goody to get another job if they ever got rid of him? Probably like 5 minutes or so. Right.
And if Jair Alexander had been healthy all year, people would not be complaining about Cooper DeJean. Is that Goody's fault? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a lot more that go into it. The whole Cooper DeJean thing it's aggravating for me as a Packers fan because it's just like, man, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that fans go that route. And it's just they fell in love with this one dude, this one guy that's like, everybody knew they should have taken him. Okay, show me where everyone was saying we should take Cooper DeJean. Everyone. Because that's a false statement. Everyone wasn't saying that. And then give me the scenario where you take Cooper DeJean, but you don't end up getting Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams, right? Because to say, well, that's not fair. Okay, well, it's not fair to Goody to say this one dude, you should have gotten him too, along with everyone else. It's just silly, man. It's silly. And again, it's that whole in the moment thing, that emotion as a Packers fan.
And you pay your GM a lot of money so that he takes emotion out of the decision-making process.
Right. And if the argument is, well, you should have taken him over Jordan Morgan. Okay, we haven't even seen Jordan Morgan because he was hurt. He battled a shoulder injury in camp, and then the shoulder injury popped back up in the season. He was never fully healthy, and we had to put him on IR. And then again, why did we lose to did we lose to the Eagles because we didn't have Cooper DeJean? Or did we lose to the Eagles because we got our asses kicked in the trenches? So Goody's seen that lack of depth in the trenches, and that's why he pulled the trigger on a offensive lineman who, by the way, lined up perfect on our board too. It wasn't like, wow, why did we reach for this guy? He was right there in that range.
He was the best guy around.
Because he gets hurt, Now all of it, it's just that whole hindsight, man. If Jordan Morgan had stayed healthy and Cooper DeJean had got hurt, those same fans wouldn't be going, boy, I was wrong on Cooper DeJean. They would just move on to the next topic.
That's true.
So that's the tough part for me. And again, it doesn't mean Goody's perfect. Goody could be better, just like LaFleur could be better, just like Jordan Love could be better, just like anybody in the organization could be better. But to sit here and pretend like that one move was the reason the Packers got their ass kicked and against the Eagles is just silly. It's again, we can agree to disagree, but Aaron's going, what does this got to do with my question, Clayton? I have no idea. It's just every conversation. Well,
we said if Goody didn't pick up an edge rusher, or not necessarily edge rusher, but bona fide pass rusher, right, does he get on the hot seat? And we answered that. We said no, we don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, everybody's got their favorite players. I get it, man. Like Coach Lynn said, multiple teams were on Morgan. By the way, it was all over the play. It wasn't like, you heard Belichick, the greatest coach in the history of the league, was like, hey, this dude right here, this is a true solid left tackle. If you could play left tackle, you could probably play any position on that line other than center if you don't have history snapping. So that's why teams or the Packers are willing to take those tackles and convert them to interior position. Someone in the organization talking about Tom, it's just kind of a global conversation around the offensive line. They said Zach Tom is a great right tackle. He's an all-pro guard, and he's a Hall of Fame center, is what they said. Well, why is it that he's a great tackle but considered a much better guard? Because it's easier to play guard than it is tackle, right? That seems to be the consensus. It doesn't mean every tackle can play guard, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of why that conversation's always steered in that direction. But yeah, Coach Lynn, that's same thing I heard around draft time too. It wasn't like the Packers were the only one on Morgan. Again, Morgan was, I'll read it off here. Offensive tackle on our board. He was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He was the 8th best tackle. And the tackles above him were Graham Barton, Amarius Mims, and Troy Fontenot. So, again, he was right there in that. Now, Dominic Pooney ends up being an awesome player this year with the 49ers, right? Yep. The 49ers offensive line always grade out really, really high, and the Packers kind of grade kind of low when it comes to run blocking, right? There's something to that. 49ers run a different offense than us. People go, no, they don't. Yes, they do. It's much different than McVay's version of what we do, of the West Coast wide zone boot. But, we had Morgan right in that range. When they took him, it was like, yeah, makes sense. Now, where did I have Cooper DeJean? 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th best corner on the board, okay? So put yourself back in Goody's shoes, looking at your roster, okay? We need offensive line help. People would agree with that, right? With the way the season ended. You needed offensive line depth and help, and you've got Jordan Morgan sitting there and Cooper DeJean sitting there. And now you look at your room and go, okay, how does our offensive line room look? Okay, yeah, we need help at guard. We don't know who's going to be right guard. We can't now pretend like Sean Ryan, we knew all along, was going to play solid at right guard. Everybody, hell, quarter of the way through the season, Tim, the coaching staff's ripping him for being out of shape, right? Yep. So look at the corner room. You got one of the highest paid corners in the league. Again, Goody can't control that he got hurt. You can't do anything about that. You spent $6 million on Keyshawn Nixon, which I think he played pretty solid on the outside and then had to kick in and out in that regard. You got Javon Bullard in the second round, who was our second best safety. By the way, to put that into perspective, Javon Bullard was one tier lower than Cooper DeJean, but he was the second best safety. So you get him and kick him into the slot. I can see how they would see them in a similar light. So I understand why Goody made the picks he made. To me, they make sense. Hindsight being 2020, would you rather have had Cooper DeJean over Jordan Morgan? If you can guarantee me that Cooper DeJean wasn't going to get hurt and Jordan Morgan was, of course, who wouldn't do that? But we know that's not how the game's played, Again, it's the fans that constantly complain and are kicking and screaming when things don't go good for the Packers, and you got to find fault. You got to find that, hey, here's that dude. And again, that's not Aaron I'm talking about. I'm talking about all the Cooper DeJean lovers out there that absolutely drove me crazy this year. Like, man, how we do it every year with one prospect as if that dude's going to get you over the hump. It's just
the same. We're still hearing about Kevin King and TJ Watt, This is what I talk about. You're not going to hit all the time in the draft. Even the greatest GMs in the history of this game miss on draft picks. It happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Mike Whitt with the super chat. Thank you, boy. He says Tankathon has us taking Morrison, cornerback from Notre Dame, in the mock draft the first round. Me personally, I'm a Notre Dame fan. You guys know this through and through. Love my Irish. I don't like that pick at 23. And
I don't like corner at 23. Any of them.
If they go and take Morrison at 23 and he turns into a Hall of Fame player, I will be happy to admit I was wrong. But as it sits right now, that's a little rich for me. Matter of fact, I'll be able to tell you here. Let me see where we've got Morrison on our board. Because he's fairly high, but again, I just don't like him right there. Benjamin Morrison, where are you at, sir? What do you think about Benjamin Morrison? You say you don't like corner, but how do you feel about Benjamin Morrison as a player, Tim? People are surprised that I'm kind of low on him, but again, I just go off of my board, obviously. So
I mean, I think he's decent, but I don't think it's let's grab him in the first round. Again, that's my bias showing I don't think we should go corner in the first round. But that doesn't mean he's not, probably first 1 to 3 rounds level of a pick. I'm not saying he's a bad player. But I'm with you. I'm not super high on him. Yeah. I think there's a handful of other corners I actually like better.
So remove the name. Forget the name for a second, okay? If I were to tell you with the 23rd pick, you could take a guy, this was his college career. In 2022, he was the 118th graded cornerback. In 2023, he was the 103rd graded cornerback. In 2024, he graded out as the 330th best cornerback, and he got hurt with a hip injury, right? Would you be willing to take him with the 23rd pick if you remove the name? And again, he was a guy that was projected to go real high, and he still is. PFF Big Board has him at 15 when we took the information down. Consensus Big Board had him at 22. Daniel Jeremiah has him in the 45 spot. Guys, that's reaching 23 spots to take Benjamin Morrison with the 23rd pick. These, again, it's not just the PFF grades. It's not just the injury. It's not just that Daniel Jeremiah has him lower and Kyle Krabs has him at 38. It's all of those things. As a Notre Dame fan, I'm trying to find a reason to get on board with Benjamin Morrison at the 23rd pick. I just can't do it, Tim. I can't.
Yeah, I can't either.
So, but thank you so much, Mike Witt, for sharing that information. Again, that's from Tankathon. Mike wasn't saying he agreed with it. He's just saying that's what Tankathon
Yeah, he's just pointing out a fact for sure.
Yeah, thank you for the super chat, Bo. Let's see here. Anonymous Human said, we have to complain because the two of your sugarcoat everything way too much and you not critical and objective enough. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I appreciate that, Anonymous. Thank you for hopping in here and pointing out that we're not objective enough. So
we're not critical, we're not objective, and we sugarcoat everything.
It's hilarious.
I'm just taking notes. Make sure I get all that real quick. All right.
It's hilarious too because you guys want me to I should screenshot them and put them in the show here and bore everybody with the DMs I get that I'm too hard on Goody. Like,
that's right.
All right, cool. Hey, thanks for swinging through though. But hit that like button while you're in here, and thanks for making us a part of your morning. Let's see what else we got here in the chat before we wrap up. Holmes MD1, I wanted them to take Mims, is what he said. Yeah,
I was pretty high on Amarius Mims too, if I remember correct. Yeah,
I want to say there was some versatility there too. Yeah, so to go along with you, Holmes, me personally, I had Jordan Morgan. There at the spot I just told you, like, what was it, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th best tackle on the board, 7th or 8th, somewhere around that range. I had Amarius Mims 2 spots higher than him, 1 full tier higher. So at the time, looking at the board, if you said Clayton pick an offensive line, assuming that Fontana, Fashanu, J.C. Latham, Fuaga, and Joe Alt were all gone, Mims would have been my top choice too, man. So, again, I know Anonymous Human says we don't ever criticize the Packers. I'm sitting here saying, yeah, I would have taken a different offensive lineman. Anyway, I love it, man. Love it. Thanks for marking that one, Tim. I appreciate you.
Hey, no problem, man. No problem.
Get my blood pressure up this morning. Again, I've been called a racist, and now I'm sugarcoating everything. Biz 1987, Anonymous, I disagree. I've never seen this kind of in-depth player and team reviews. You do you. I appreciate that, Biz. Again,
Biz, thank you.
We try to talk about what happened and why did it happen, and we try to break down every angle. Like Benjamin Morrison, like I just said, man, I would love for a Notre Dame player to be on the Packers roster, another one, and keep that tradition going of Curly Lambeau's ties to the Packers and to the Irish both together there. But I don't see it there. Again, I've got him in the 74 spot. If you're telling me we would take him in the second round, yeah, cool. But again, this is the type of breakdowns we try to do, is just look at it from every angle. We try to look at precedent. We try to look at, are you overpaying? Because you can overpay in the draft too, Tim, right? Spending
Yep.
a pick on a player that you feel is significantly lower. But like here with Benjamin Morrison, if you took him at 54, I would feel a little bit better about it. You get him at 87, I'd be over the moon. I'd be like, yes, great value there. But again, he's projected to go in the first round. And I'm eager to see how he tests too, because hip injuries are tough, man. They are.
Yeah. Especially for someone at that position group, right? I mean, you're literally moving and turning every snap you're playing.
Yeah. And 2-0 for this says, just because another team got good players doesn't mean our players are bad. I think that's a great point there, man. Of course, that's not going to get the reaction. That's not going to get the the attention that people want, So
doesn't
right.
bode well for the engagement farm, right?
Exactly. Redmo 46. We love you, Clayton. Don't worry, the show still sucks though. Hey, you got that right, my friend. We appreciate you. If the show sucks, everybody, hit that like button for us, okay? We greatly appreciate it. Indeed, Holmes says. All right, man. Coach Lynn, you guys do a great job, and don't let anyone tell you any different. Hey, appreciate you, Coach. I know you've been a supporter from day one, man. Again, man, it's just it's fans coming together, all of us coming together and having these conversations. That's the most important aspect. Mock Witt with the super chat. The same mock has us taking edge. As I can never say that name. How would you say that name there, Tim?
Is Ziraku? Ziraku?
Close enough for me. From Boston College in the second. And in the third, it has us taking defensive line Peebles from Virginia Tech.
Okay.
Peebles was definitely a player that's linked to the Packers. Let's just go through these real quick. So they're taking our 74th best prospect in the 23 spot. We know that, right? Now let's try to look for this gentleman here. I need to start getting some of these pronunciations down. I'd just rather not waste time trying to learn how to pronounce a name,
Aeneas, I think. Aeneas Peebles.
Yeah, so that's not popping up as a player there. I'm talking about the first one.
Oh,
the EZ. Yeah. Let's see if that breaks it down. Maybe that'll help us. Give me just a second here. Here we go. Yeah, so Donovan as a Raku, however you say the name, as a Raku, defensive edge out of Boston College. We have in the 27th spot. So you see, we don't like the Benjamin Morrison pick there, but boy, in the second round at 54, getting the 27th best prospect, let's go. Let's freaking go. That would be a great pick. And again, why is he higher than Morrison? He was 46th at his position in 22, 113th in 23, then all the way up to 18th in 24. Okay. Daniel Jeremiah has him at 28. Kyle Krabs has him at 19. That would be a hell of a pick there, Tim, with the 54th pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, be on board with that. Now let's find Peebles and we'll wrap this big bear up. We're way over. Surprise, surprise. So he's saying take Peebles in the third round, which that pick for us, I'm trying to let this ticker roll back through. We've got the draft picks rolling at the bottom here. Third round pick would be what spot, Tim?
87.
All right. So at 87, we would get the 103rd best prospect on our board. And again, he's linked to the Packers. That's not like, oh, man, we reached bad there. I'm sure there's going to be players we would like more than that. But if you're going to get him, if you want to guarantee you get him, you better get him in the third because he's probably going to be gone with your fourth round pick there, right? So decent chance anyway with him being the 103rd best prospect. So anything else you want to add here, Tim, before we wrap up, man?
No, I agree with that for sure, especially with Peebles. I think you're right. If you don't – I don't know if you reach for him in the second, but if he's on the board in the third and you haven't taken an edge – excuse me, if we haven't addressed D-line in the first round, like I hope we do, then I think you do. You got to go for a guy like that in the third round. You got to get those in the first three rounds. You got to address those, top positional needs. I think doesn't matter what order as long as you do it.
Yeah. And again, Mike, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Aaron Rodgers in the chat says, Clayton, would you draft Tyler Warren from Penn State if he falls? I'm seeing him falling in the consensus big board mock draft. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure Warren is our top tight end, right?
I think so.
Let's see here. Ty. I think we got him as Tyler, I believe. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, check this out, Tim. This is a great question, Aaron. Great question. If Tyler Warren from Penn State, Tim, he falls to 23, we've got him as the sixth best prospect. Okay, now he's the first of that next tier here. Actually, no. Second in that next tier. So essentially what we've got is our top tier players as it sits right now. And these are going to separate themselves after the combine a little bit. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 players in the top tier. So Ty Warren would be in that second tier of players for us. and he'd be the 6th best prospect, I would have no problem with that. And I know I'm going to get roasted for it, but you want to really press into 12? Ty Warren, and keep in mind, guys, Tucker Kraft has turned into a top 5 tight end, in my opinion. I think he is. He was a 3rd-round pick. Luke Musgrave was a 2nd-round pick, who I personally believe, based off the information we have right now, and it's still early, he was a miss, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Hopefully he proves me wrong. Ty Warren is, you're talking about top of the top, right? Like in terms of tight ends. You're getting a guy that, as silly as it sounds, would pressure Tucker Kraft for the number 1 tight end spot. And some people may get mad over that. Guys, I'm as big a Tucker Kraft fan as there is on the face of the planet. But if you're telling me another player is better than him, hell yes, I want him starting over Tucker Kraft, right?
Or even if another player is going to come in and, compete and pull even more out of the tank for Tucker Kraft and, you make each other better. I love that too. I love that whole scenario.
Right. Absolutely. And this is why we talk about, when you say best player available, you're not drafting for need. The needs steer your scout in the direction of really compiling information. I guarantee you Goody's going to these guys going, listen, we're looking for a 3-tech. We're looking for O-line. We got to spend extra attention there, right? And that's why sometimes the draft board is catered towards the needs for that very reason. But when you dive into it from this angle here, man, if you get a player, even though it's a position that's not technically of need, and they're that much better, yeah, Aaron, this is a great question. It looks like the chat too was really, really like that question, man. These are the types of questions that kind of mold the draft. Now, will Ty Warren be there at 23? Probably not. But if he is, and our board, let's say every one of these players were picked all the way down to the 21 spot that you see here on the left here, right? Every one of these players, right? Every one of them are all gone, and you get to 23 and Ty Warren's sitting there. He's going to be sticking out like a sore thumb above the rest of the horizontal board.
Yep.
I'd take Ty Warren in a heartbeat.
And I would trust Goody to pull the trigger too, probably, if it played out that way.
Yeah.
And then possibly a move up, right? Do you see him trying to trade up later on in the draft then? Like if we go tight end early and we're still after, you know what I mean? Maybe you're trying to move up in the 3rd round. Or, you're dumping later round picks, trying to move up in that 2nd or 3rd round, try and double dip.
I can see anything's on the table, really, Yeah, it really is. I tell you something else that could happen. If Ty Warren's on the board there when you pick at 23, a bunch of teams might come calling. Hey, we want to trade up 3 spots and we'll give you our 2nd as well because they're that high on Ty Warren. Boy, oh boy, that would set up a scenario where you could potentially trade back. And that's where you got to weigh out. Do we want to press into 12? Like Coach is saying here, 12 would be insane with them too. You want to press into 12? Or you want to really light this draft on fire and trade back and collect a bunch of capital because somebody has Ty Warren in the same spot you got him on your board. Now, I want to say this too. Ty Warren may not even be in Goody's top 50. People will roll their eyes at that, but that's possible. That's possible. You never know. So I wouldn't bet the farm on that, but it's possible. Aaron Rodgers, Warren can play fullback also. Hey, there you go. Then you can get back to a little bit of what you might want to do in terms of Shanahan's system as opposed to McVay's. Of course, I don't think anybody's going to be looking to mimic Shanahan this year. Not with the season they just had. They're
probably not.
Kind of fun seeing them get their ass kicked this year. It was interesting. And the Madden curse is real this year. At least this year it was with Christian McCaffrey on the Madden cover. So,
yep.
All right. Last question. We got to go. We're way over. Holy cow! I'm getting divorced today. Who is the next tight end on the board? So we got Ty Warren in the 6th spot, and then our next tight end would be Colston Loveland at 16. All right, and then after that, there's a significant drop off to Harold Fannin Jr. tight end in Bowling Green.
That's the one we've been looking at. That's the value basket pick right there, right?
Yeah, and the Packers are linked to him too. They have met with him. So I don't think they met with the other guys at all, right? No, they haven't. So probably thinking they're going to be gone. If you see this cheese emoji when we get this up, guys, that means the Packers have met with them, okay? And we'll probably do a different a different emoji if it's a top 30 visit, just to differentiate between the two. But last one, we got to go. Mike Witt, man, thank you so much, buddy, for the super chat. Hope I'm wrong, but if Warren drops, KC is going to trade up and draft and replace Kelsey in my opinion. That would make a lot of sense, Mike.
Wow,
That's a great
I could see that happening. Yeah,
just plug him right in where Kelsey was. Kelsey goes off and stays at home while Taylor Swift goes out there and makes the money. You know what I mean? Kind of that type of approach. But anyway, we'll see.
Trav still got that. Never mind. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to say that.
No, Tim. I
don't want to get myself in trouble.
That's it. We're out of here, guys. See, this is what happens. Mike, thank you for the super chat, bud. Appreciate you. Matter of fact, all these super chats you had in here, you just absolutely lit it up. We appreciate you supporting the show. And thanks to everybody else in the chat, man. Aaron, great question. That really got the chat sparked up. You guys continue to comment on the video if you're not watching live. If you didn't watch live and you're now catching the video, let us know in the comments what you think about that and hit that like button for us. We greatly appreciate it. Joseph Ryle, last one. Politics is just a distraction from the uniparty's hand in your checking account.
Preach.
Could not agree more there, Joseph. Could not agree more. But again, let's stop letting these knuckleheads control every aspect of our life. Let's take care of one another. That should be the plan. As we say sometimes, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Fix it from the inside out.
And shout out to Emilio. His executive order was honored last night. So congratulations.
That Photoshop, the worst ever. Oh, I love it. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all's time. We'll be back tonight for PTA Live at 7 p.m. Central. See if any other news breaks. Coming up on some deadlines here. You've got the franchise tag. That period is going to open here real soon. You'll see some teams. It won't apply to the Packers as much from the Packers franchising a player. I don't see that happening. But what will probably happen is you'll see some of these big-name free agents we like get hit with the franchise tag, and we can now take them off the board and know there's not a chance of the Packers signing them. And then, of course, around the 20th, here in about 10 days, you should see the Packers, probably the 20th to the 30th, somewhere around that range, you're going to see the Packers start to restructure contracts. So look for that coming down the pike as well. Again, on the record, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, Jordan Love, Elton Jenkins, Xavier McKinney, Kenny Clark, and Josh Jacobs, I think, are the top candidates to have their contract restructured to trade cash for cap and be able to save cap space, whether you use it in this free agency or roll it into next year. You're probably going to see that happen. So appreciate everybody's time. You guys are awesome. We'll see you tonight. Everybody have a great day. Stay warm out.
And we go.
Bye, guys.